Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast, a show where normal guys talk about the films that they love. And here are your hosts, Bryce Thompson, Brian Hammond, and Cody Ryrie. Now get ready, because the show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast. I am Bryce Thompson. I'm here with Brian Hammond and Cody Ryrie.
Hello there.
Today we are going to talk about the great director Steven Spielberg. And I'll let Cody take over from here since he is the Spielberg genius, as we'll call him.
I am a giant fan of Steven Spielberg. And the reason being is because I think he's one of the last craftsmen left in the world of directing, and he can do anything. He can do comedy, drama. Anyway, we're going to get to that. But a lot has been said about Steven Spielberg. A lot of people have broken down his quote-unquote 10 best movies, but we wanted to try something a little different on the Valhalla Filmcast. We are, each of us, Brian, Bryce, and I, going to pick 3 different Spielberg movies. Well, they may not be. We'll get to that. But there'll be 3 movies we'll each talk about. And the first one is going to be if we were talking to someone who had never seen a Steven Spielberg movie, and they could only watch one to give them a really good idea of who Spielberg was as an artist, then we're going to tell them which one movie they can watch to kind of encapsulate everything that Spielberg is about. The second one we're going to talk about is which one we think is objectively the best movie that he's ever made. And then we're going to end with each of our personal favorites from his list. Now, there might be some crossover in these, but that's how we're going to break down his filmography. And hopefully this will be kind of interesting and instructive. I'm going to start off with the one movie I can show to a person to tell them everything they need to know about Spielberg. And this is a hard question, but I came down with E.T. the Extraterrestrial as my pick. And I have a couple reasons for this. I think it shows the family dynamic that Spielberg has in so many of his movies. It takes place in the suburbs, which is a big theme for him. There's divorce in the family, which again is a big theme from his life that's made it into a lot of his movies. And then something supernatural happens that kind of brings healing. And that, in this case, it's the alien who comes down and becomes that healing part of the family. Also, John Williams, who's the composer that's worked with Spielberg more than anybody else, has one of his best scores for this film, and I think it gives a really good idea of the kind of music that he most often composes for Spielberg films. The only weakness with picking E.T. is I don't think it shows off the harsh, historical-based Spielberg that would show up later with Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. So there is that one weakness, but besides that, I feel like E.T. encapsulates what Spielberg means the best. Brian, what was your pick for that one?
Well, okay, let me start by saying that this was very difficult because there are so many in there that's impacted me throughout my life, and I would love to share with people that have never had a chance to see his work. But if I were to pick one that kind of encapsulates... I would have to say Jurassic Park. Now, it's a double-edged sword because I agree with you. It does not, have any, reference to what's going to come out just a few years later. With the ones you mentioned, these really hard-hitting, very emotional films. However, it does give the grand world that he can create. Just like you mentioned with John Williams, this is the first time really that computer really just kind of blew me away. I remember seeing it in the theater, and so it does hold a special place in my heart. And it is a blockbuster and just a good representation of the type of quality popcorn films he can produce. Where it falls short, you're right, is in the hard hitting stuff. But
you're dating yourself, Brian, because
yeah, I know.
I was not allowed to see it because I was too young in the theater.
All right.
So we won't get into details about that, but yes. Okay, Bryce, your pick for the movie that encapsulates Spielberg.
This question is difficult, especially for me, since I haven't seen... I've seen a lot of Spielberg. I mean, you can't watch movies and not see a lot of Spielberg, but I haven't seen a ton to know all of his work. So I'm going to kind of tweak the question a little bit, and I'm going to answer it a movie that I would show someone that has never seen him and just wants to know a good movie to watch, to kind of get into him and to kind of know. So pretty much the same basis, but a little different. And I'm going to have to give them Lincoln. And the reason being is because it's shot it looks very good, one. So that's, a key point is that it looks good, and it also keeps your interest. I mean, I remember when I watched it, I just remember them talking, constantly. It's pretty much all it is just dialogue, the entire way through. But I was never bored. I was never bored with it. And so I think that this movie will kind of set you into showing you what Steven Spielberg can do. And it's a newer movie, and it has an Oscar-winning actor in it. And this movie, it's nothing that, it's too specific in any one direction. And so I think that that's a good jump for anyone to take who hasn't seen Spielberg and is looking to watch some movies made by him. I think that's a good one. Okay.
I'm glad you changed the question a little, because I was ready to jump on you and argue that was a bad pick for the original question. But for the question as you changed it, it was a very good pick. I was going to say that Spielberg's known a lot for his non-verbal filmmaking style, being able to show and
definitely
not tell.
Yeah.
But you really do show that he stretched himself later in life and demonstrated that he could do dialogue as good as anybody else. So,
because because I was thinking about the question, and I was thinking I really like Lincoln. I really like Lincoln a lot. But it doesn't really fit into that category at all.
Yeah.
Because it's not a movie that he's used to making, but it's something that you can jump into, enjoy it, and then go from there. And so,
very good. Okay.
Moving on
to the movie that we think objectively is the best movie that Spielberg has ever directed. I am going to start with my pick, and my pick is Munich. Munich is a lesser-seen movie that he did about the Munich Olympics, which is relevant right now since we're right in the middle of the Olympics. And it's about how in the 70s a group of Palestinian terrorists broke in and killed the Israeli athletes during the Munich Olympics. And it starts with that, but it's really about the Mossad, Israeli special forces unit that goes around assassinating the members that they are told are responsible for this attack. I think it's objectively Spielberg's best movie because I think it's crafted better than almost as good as any movie that's ever been made. It is so well shot and so well edited to create suspense, to make you feel like you're there with those people. And I think that it's also objectively his best movie because it has all of his strengths, which is his ability to get you to empathize with his characters. Another strength he has is his ability for silent storytelling, like we were saying, with visual storytelling, which is amazing in that film. Also, suspense and action, which are incredibly well done, as good as he's ever done them in that movie. But it has none of his weaknesses either. Oftentimes people accuse Spielberg of being schmaltzy or sentimental, and while I don't think that's too big of a problem, I think he does slide into that a little bit, but not in Munich. There's not a sentimental bone in Munich's body. It is a hard-hitting movie that doesn't have any answers, nothing to make you feel better at the end of the movie. There's no, oh, well, this is the answer to stop the Israel-Palestine conflict. Yay. No, there's just questions. There's just things to get you to think really deeply and really relate to these characters. So that's why I think it's his best, because it has all the things that he does really well, and then also doesn't slide into any of the things that he can sometimes be guilty of. Brian, your pick?
Well, my pick is one that he slid into the things he likes to indulge himself with, is sentimental. I went with Schindler's List for obvious reasons. It is arguably probably one of his best films. The reason I like it, I did see it at an early age, and I still believe that that it should be a requirement in senior high school, to see it. Maybe not a requirement, but strongly urged. It impacts you so much and makes the Holocaust so real, and it puts a face to it. And people that do Holocaust movies, they have it's a difficult thing to accomplish, and to do it correctly, to do it without alienating the millions of people that lost their lives tragically, and still tell a good story. And I think that this, which is based on a true story, really just hits it home with the impact that the Holocaust had on large groups of people, and the power of one man, the power that one man can do. And it is over the top, sentimental, and cheesy when you see that girl in the coat. But it's a special effect that it made me. It made me feel like I was watching like an old black and white film that had was hand colorized. It was such delicate detail, and to portray the innocence
you're talking
of this girl.
about that one moment when he sees the little girl and she's wearing the red coat and everything else is in black and white, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I assume you've seen it, and that's a bad assumption. But the first one is for people who hadn't seen it. So, anyways, that's what I'm going with, and those are the reasons.
I think that's a little harsh. I don't know that I felt like it was corny.
No, I
see the little girl.
I meant he was pulling on those sentimental strings that you said. He could over.
Fair enough. I don't know that I would personally say that was an infraction, but yes. Yeah, I got you. Okay, great. Great pick. Bryce, your turn.
I guess before I start, though, you mentioned that you think Schindler's List needs to be a requirement in high school. I was just thinking, how many of his movies could you watch that could be required for high school? Schindler's List, you have Saving Private Ryan, you have, I think, Munich. I think you should have to watch Munich.
Yeah.
And I think Lincoln. All those 4 movies, there you go, high school. You don't even need to go to school anymore.
The Color Purple. The Color Purple, too.
Yeah.
There's probably so many. Bridge of Spies.
Empire of the Sun.
So many. So just don't don't go to high school history class anymore. Just watch Spielberg.
There you go.
I like it.
But my pick, I also picked Munich, just because, agreeing with what you said, Cody, but also, for me especially, it took a subject that I knew nothing about and made it make sense to me. I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't know about the cultures. I didn't know how they worked, what they thought of each other, nothing. I sat down and watched that movie, completely understood it. Wasn't lost at all. I feel like I have a better understanding of how they operate now. And also I feel like not only was he taking a good picture of what was going on then and what is happening now with that conflict, but also you can you can take that movie and apply it to different parts of American lives with like what we're going through and the conflicts that we're going through. You know, it still works, even though it's not our conflict. We weren't really involved in that conflict, but we can take the conflicts that we're in now and use that movie, and it mirrors, and we can get some of the same messages. And I think that to be able to do that, that's pretty impressive. You know, to tell like multiple stories with one movie and to make them all make sense, that's a pretty big feat to take on, and I think he did a very good job with it.
I like that.
Well, and yeah, he makes that.
Great.
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying you worded that great. I like that.
Well, I was going to say,
and made it real.
Yeah. And Spielberg invites us to make that comparison with America,
yes,
and with September 11th politics by the last shot in the film. And maybe I've already ruined it, but I'll try not to ruin it by not really revealing what it is. But it's such a powerful last shot, and he doesn't even have to say anything.
Nope.
He just does it wordlessly, and then at the end, it's this, like you said, this kick in the gut where you go, oh my gosh, this whole movie hasn't been about us at all, and yet it's been about us the whole time.
Exactly, and you have to make a good movie to be able to do that. You know, your directing skills have to be on point to be able to make a movie that does that. To make a movie about a subject that you're not even talking about a subject that you're not even talking about.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And he did it, and he did it so very well. Because, like, at the very end shot, you go back and you're like, holy cow, that's just what we've done and are doing.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, and it's pretty fascinating. And, I mean, it's not just like this, you know, like you said, it is very hardcore. It's very hardcore. But he throws in his family, which also puts an interesting twist in it as well. Mm-hmm. Because it shows, you know, this man who is dedicated to his country, he's dedicated to his job, but then he's also dedicated to his family, and he has to, you know, it's just, there's so many fronts to this movie, it's just pretty amazing. And to be able to keep track of it all is amazing.
Well, and for me, and this is saying something from the man who made Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, it disturbed me more than any movie of his has ever made before. There was things, violence and other acts in it that it disturbed me on a deeper level than Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan. And it should, because of what it's about this terrorist, you know, and how we respond to it. Anyway, that's enough love for Munich. If you haven't gotten it, by the way, we really like Munich here at the Valhalla Filmcast. It's a personal favorite. But speaking of personal favorites, that's what we're going to get to and we're going to end on is, you know, just the movie that we've seen that Spielberg made that was just without, you know, real logical reasons or whatever that we liked personally the best. My favorite Spielberg film is Catch Me If You Can. It's a movie from 2002 that has Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks in it. And it's the true story of a really young con man. He goes around the country, and Tom Hanks is an FBI agent chasing him. Anyway, this is a movie that I can watch anytime, and I've seen it probably 25, 30 times, and it never gets old. It's a really interesting combination of really funny, as DiCaprio's pulling off these heists and these other things and conning these people, and it's really funny and really exciting to be with him. And then it also has a really good, like a really heavy-hitting, hard gut punch when you kind of see the loneliness that this life leads DiCaprio to. So it's not just this, hey, crime is fun movie. You know, there is that kind of element to the thrill of the crimes he goes on, but also there's this really interesting relationship between Tom Hanks and DiCaprio that develops. Also a big standout is Christopher Walken playing DiCaprio's dad in the film. He was nominated for an Oscar, and there are one or two moments where Christopher Walken just rips your heart out with some of the things he talks about that happen. So it's a great, really kind of fun, breezy 60s movie, but it also has enough dramatic meat on its bones to not just be a fluff piece. And like I said, it's not his best probably, but it is my favorite. Brian?
And his
before
score.
You start, Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I really enjoyed that movie as well. I mean, I really wish that DiCaprio would do another movie with Steven Spielberg, because I enjoyed him so much in it, and you know what he's like with Tom Hanks. I mean, he's done how many movies with him, and they're all amazing. But DiCaprio, he was able to just do amazing things with him, and the movie was so good and entertaining. You just hooked the whole time. I would like to see another movie with those two. I think it'd be fantastic.
Well, I will say also that DiCaprio, I do love him a ton, but sometimes when he's acting, it seems like it's really like a lot of effort to get to what he's doing. But in Catch Me If You Can, it seems so effortless. Mm-hmm. Like it's just breezy. It's just easy for him. Yeah, that's why I think Spielberg is probably a great match for him, because whatever they do together, he seems to erase that part of DiCaprio that seems like it has to work hard and just makes it natural.
Well, one of my most favorite parts in that movie is when he's they meet face to face. I think it's for the first time, and he's talking about he's acting as the cop. I think he's like a FBI agent or something like that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just missed him." And he's just so smooth, and you can tell that DiCaprio is just so smooth, and it just works. And you feel like you're not watching Leonardo DiCaprio. You feel like you're watching that guy actually, talking himself out of this crazy, point in his life, which is
I love that impressed. He has the cojones to give him his wallet.
Yeah,
it's just great. Anyways, what I was interjecting was the score is incredible. Williams' score, that jazzy, gosh, it just I can play it in my head right now. So yeah, it's very very memorable.
Well, and with the score, like you were saying, that opening credit sequence too is this really interesting, colorful '60s,
a Samuel Bass type.
Yes.
Intro. Yeah, it was really cool. My turn?
Yes, your turn. Go ahead.
Okay. Did we say we could have ties?
Sure, why not?
All right, I'm going to throw out 3. And oftentimes I have markers, that, I've told you that it's hard for me to pick my favorite, but I use the gauge if I've watched it the most, and so I'm going to go with that. Just keep it simple. So I'm going to say Raiders of the Lost Ark, which, for obvious reasons, is just the perfect popcorn film. The perfect mix of comedy, action, and suspense, and he just does it so well. And part of that is Harrison Ford's charismatic character, and the rest of it is all Spielberg. Spielberg's magic. Now let's see. The second one is, believe it or not, a kid's film, Hook. And
really,
yeah, the reason I like it is it first of all it does I think an excellent job of retelling the Peter Pan story from a different kind of perspective. And I know the acting is over the top, but I saw this is in my heyday, okay? This is when I was seeing theaters, paying for them by myself with my own money, and going to them. And so, these movies, left an impact on me. So there is a big nostalgia, factor kind of coming to play on that. But my third one, which you probably wouldn't guess either, is Minority Report, which is based off of a short story by Philip K. Dick. I love Tom Cruise with all of his nuttiness. He is kind of a character, but I like him, and I think that it's an excellent adaptation of that short story, and I just like the excitement, the action, and also the intricate plot details that are actually more of the writer's job than the director's. But anyways, those are my 3. So
okay, all right, hang on. All right, before we get to you, Bryce, I have a comment here. I didn't know we were allowing ties. So
I thought we said yes, we could.
if we're allowing ties, I want to add just one because I'm not as decadent as you, Brian. But I would also add Minority Report to my favorite one as well. I saw Minority Report in Toronto, Canada, at an IMAX theater.
Oh, wow.
It's the one that they have the Toronto Film Festival in. So it's this amazing, or one of these amazing theaters. I saw it on, this perfect time in life. I think both of my favorites, Catch Me If You Can and Minority Report, came out in 2002. He did 2 movies that year, and they both came out that year. And for me, that's the year I graduated from high school. And it was like Spielberg celebrated with me by releasing my 2 favorite of his movies. And they couldn't be more different, because Catch Me If You Can is so colorful and light and breezy, and Minority Report is dark, and the color's drained out of it. But man, it's a fantastically made movie. Like I said, the action in it is still mind-boggling to this day. It's so smart in the way that it tells its story. When I took a policing class in college, we talked about a lot of the police technology in Minority Report as things like non-lethal weapons that they're actually trying to develop. And Spielberg, when he made that movie, he got this huge brain trust together of advertising people, police people, car manufacturers, and said, look, what's it really going to be like in 2052? And all of that stuff is in the movie. So you see what everywhere Tom Cruise goes in that movie, his eyes get red, and then all these advertisements advertise to him specifically based on his history. And well, what's happened now? You go on YouTube or on Facebook, and all of the ads are tailored to what you like and what you find interesting.
Yeah.
So it's really this, prophecy of this dystopian future, and a lot of it's coming to pass. It's just such I could go on forever. It's such a fantastic movie.
If you're interjecting more, I'm going to as well.
You already had 3!
I know!
You already had 3!
Just back off, everyone. All right. The reason I like Minority Report so much is everything, this is just adding to what you said, everything is totally plausible and will be in our future, minus the cognitives. But the computers fill that gap. So I can totally see, like, a computer, like, kind of, taking over the psychic, aspect of that, and totally, really foreseeing what you're going to do in the future. And so, it's very plausible. But again, I'm going to argue that most of this is because of the writing of Philip K. Dick, all of these really cool plot points. That was all in the short story. And so, Spielberg did great with it. I'm not going to argue there. But I like Philip K. Dick, too. So.
Okay, for a second there, I thought you were going to add more movies, and I was going to have to put a kibosh on that.
No. No, I was adding to Minority Report.
Okay, Bryce. We wait with bated breath for your personal favorite Spielberg movie.
All right. Well, I have 52 favorite Spielberg movies. No, just kidding. I have one. I mean one. You can't say one, but I'll pick one. My favorite movie is probably going to be Saving Private Ryan. I've talked a lot about this movie on this film cast, and I mean, I've named so many different things why I love it, but one thing that I recently heard about this movie, it was from a book called On Combat, and it's by Colonel Dave Grossman. And just a brief summary of the book, it's a book about how cops and soldiers can deal with combat and what to expect when they get into combat. And he pretty much hates the media, doesn't really like anything to do with them, which, I mean, you can't really blame him. But one thing he talks about is Saving Private Ryan. And he talks about this, and I've never thought of this movie this way, and it blew my mind. And it was really awesome. But he talks about how through the course of the movie, you have the main soldiers, the Rangers, going out to save Private Ryan, and he says that those Rangers are all the major wars, all the major conflicts that America has gone through, and we as civilians are Private Ryan. Now, as through the course of the movie, as you know, the Rangers, slowly die off, and you can see that they represent all the major conflicts that we've gone through, and how they have tried, to protect this country and to protect, Saving Private Ryan. And it was really interesting to me. I've never thought of it that way, that those soldiers, they died to protect one person. And those wars were waged to protect our country. And it was really interesting, and it really blew my mind. And he can say it so much more, better than I can. So definitely go listen to it in his book. But also, it's just a really great movie. I mean, if you want to see conflict and war, he pretty much wrote the book on modern day war movies, and he changed the landscape and just made it amazing. So definitely Saving Private Ryan for me.
Well, and you'll see that if filmmakers or studios can copy something, they'll copy it if they think it's really interesting or cool. You didn't see a lot of Schindler's List copies because that's hard to copy. I don't know how there wasn't a big flux of black and white movies after Schindler's List. But when it came to the filming of combat, like you said, it was a sea change when Saving Private Ryan. You can watch a combat movie before and after, and there's a night and day difference because of the things that Spielberg did, especially with that 20-minute D-Day opening that happens at the beginning of the film. And a lot of he talked about his inspirations were actual combat footage. Yeah. So, somebody who can't film something that good because they're trying not to get shot, the camera kind of works like that. The camera's almost ducking at the same time the soldiers are, and just trying to catch stuff as it can. And also there was a little bit of, believe it or not, video games that inspired the way that he shot that. This idea of let's put you in the situation. Let's make sure that it's you that's experiencing this, firsthand. Yeah. That's where that portion of it came from. That's I didn't know. I had never thought about it the way that the author you described discussed it. That's really interesting. I did get that we were supposed to be Private Ryan as civilians. Yeah. Because by the end, when Tom Hanks' character says, "Earn this." Oh yeah.
That just makes you just pumped up right there, just thinking about it.
It's a challenge to us. Okay, yeah, you've seen all this stuff and all these horrible things that these people have had to do for you, and you don't just get to sit back. You need to do something to earn this. You need to be involved. You need to appreciate it. And, everybody gets to decide what that means to earn that. But the movie clearly states there needs to be some action on your part because of what these people have done. And that's powerful. That's when it moves past a movie into a life experience. So I can totally see why you picked that one. Okay, awesome. Well, let us know what your favorite Spielberg movies are. Did they line up with ours? Did we miss the one that's so near and dear to your heart? Let us know on our Facebook or Twitter accounts. We would love to get some feedback from you on this awesome filmmaker. Thanks for listening. This has been the Valhalla Filmcast. I'm Cody Ryrie.
I'm Bryce Thompson.
And I'm Brian Hammond.
And we will catch you next time.
The following viewers' opinions and commentary are the sole property of the Valhalla Filmcast. Any unauthorized reproduction without prior consent is prohibited. Any incidental music, audio clips, or film trailers are used for the sole purpose of film criticism and commentary as allowed under the Fair Use Act.